Hey guys, it's Eddie and I am back today like I said I would be with another movie review for you all. Now today's review is kind of going to be a double whammy. It's going to be split into two parts because as I said I was going to be focusing today on The Conjuring, and then following that will be The Conjuring Part 2, which I will probably upload tomorrow. But first of all, today we are doing and focusing on analysing and reviewing The Conjuring, directed by James Wan. So, this film is based on the story of the haunting of the Perron family back in the 70s, the early 70s, and it focuses on the case that is investigated by demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are played wonderfully by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. And it kind of focuses on a haunting of the family as they move into this new house by an accused witch called Bathsheba, who lived there in the 1800s, and basically she put a curse on all the land, so now that curse befalls the Perron family. And I absolutely love this horror film. I watched it, the first time I watched it actually I was alone at my aunt's house, and it was, I didn't really know what to expect from it. I just thought, oh, let's see what this is, but it was actually pretty scary. It wasn't scary in a sort of obviously scary way. I kind of felt like it was more like insidiously scary. It was very, very creepy. And I think that image of the clap game, with the hands coming out behind, beside the head of the mum in the darkness, in the basement, I think that image is so famous now because of that film. And I love it. I think it's probably one of the best horror films that we've had in a long, long time. I think the exorcism scene, which comes right at the end, is one of the best and most chilling I have ever witnessed in a movie. Especially, when, the chair flips upside down and the cloth over the possessee's face sort of rips and we can see the sort of flash image of a snarling witch, and it's very, very scary. I think across this film, although I said that obviously it's, focused more on being chilling than sort of obviously scary, there are some like fantastic and startling jump scares. For example, the witch atop the wardrobe, and the sort of cloth sheet on the washing line that falls off and forms, the outline of a strange silhouette that disappears. And I think James Wan's directing, his ability to build that tension to sort of a crisis point is so amazing. There are other frightening images that I really cannot forget from this film, such as, the image of, a really grotesque corpse hanging from a tree, and the absolutely stunning direction which comes from one when we, at the beginning of the film, we see one of the young girls, one of the family members, she's desperately trying to tell her sister that there is something at the door, in the doorway, that's staring at her and that's coming, gradually closer. But every time we get a shot of that doorway, there is nothing there. And that sort of flicking back and forth between the child and the doorway is just a fantastic way to build up tension. It's really terrifying. I think one of the best things about this movie is the relationship or the chemistry between Wilson and Farmiga, who play the Warrens. Now, the thing that I love about this, both The Conjuring and The Conjuring Part 2, is its consistency with the two main characters, the two paranormal investigators, the demonologists. And the two actors that play Ed and Lorraine are just, they have this really wonderful chemistry that, despite them being part of a horror film, really endear you to them. And I think that's what's really sort of different and wonderful about this film, is that we become familiar with these two characters, and before we know it, we're sort of tied to them. And not only are we hoping that this poor sort of misfortune family come out of this paranormal encounter alive and well, but we also really want the best for these two investigators, because they are just so wonderfully portrayed by Wilson and Farmiga. And I think they they have this wonderful on-screen chemistry. Now, there's been a wide range of historical debate about Ed and Lorraine Warren and their legitimacy as demonologists, and whether their encounters in real life were just money making schemes and all of that. And at the end of the day, this is just a movie. I don't think it's endorsing the truth or trying to get support for Ed and Lorraine, the real Ed and Lorraine. But I think it's just one take on a very interesting tale. Whether it's fabricated or not, I don't know. But I think this film, nevertheless, is fantastic, and it's definitely perhaps one of the scariest horror films seen, I think, in the last, couple of years, especially in the 2010s. I think we've been lacking, really breathtakingly scary horror films, and I think this is definitely what that is. I think this one is a lot creepier than its sequel. I think it's comprised more of chills and build-ups and getting to know the family and the characters more. We get that in the Conjuring 2, but it seems to happen alongside sort of an array of scares, whereas in the first film we get to know the characters, and by the end we are really rooting for them and hoping that everything turns out okay. And I think that's what makes this a really different kind of horror film. It's really enduring, and it sort of captures your heart, as well as making you horrifically scared of what is going to happen next. I think the actual imagery of the paranormal villain that we have in this film, Bathsheba the witch, is very terrifying. That scene, as I mentioned earlier, which forms a kind of jump scare, where she's sat atop the wardrobe and suddenly leaps. Her sort of face, her appearance is blood curdling, and I think it's a really fantastically frightening image that is definitely worthy of a scare. So I think that James Wan and his sort of production crew did a fantastic job of creating a really fresh horror film. I think this is a horror film that I would recommend to anyone who is an avid horror fan. I can't really recall a great deal or an excessive amount of gore. There is various scenes with blood, as you would probably expect from any horror film, but it's not, it's not based around gore or anything like that. So I don't think people who, want to watch this film have to worry about that aspect of it so much if they're not a fan of that. But I definitely would recommend this as a horror film for anyone to watch. Maybe it shouldn't be your first horror film. I think even though it's sort of creepy, it's still, it still gives you an almighty, jump at times. So I'd definitely be wary of that if you're not a jump scare fan. But I think it's got a fantastic story. The acting is amazing, particularly I think from Lily Taylor, who plays the mother, who is unfortunately ensnared and possessed by our witch friend Bathsheba. witch friend Bathsheba, and that's slightly unfortunate for her, but her acting is astounding. I think she fares in the role very well, you know, going from the sort of caring mother to the you know, snarling, possessed, evil witch. I think she does a really great job, and I'm a huge fan of this movie. I would definitely see it if you already haven't, and all horror fans, I think, should definitely give this movie a try, as well as its sequel, which I will be reviewing very shortly for you all. So please check this movie out. If anyone has any other movies to request for me to review, that would be lovely. You can always leave a comment, or you can message me on my Tumblr, but I will be back very shortly with my review on The Conjuring 2, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye guys!